Welcome to Spenelli Speaks. Hi guys, Danny here. Welcome back to my channel. Today is a new start to a new series. As promised in my 2020 reading goals, I wanted to do a series about The Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. It is probably one of my favorite series. I started reading it back, when it first started coming out, probably when it was like in the midst of maybe had released the fourth one. And a friend of mine had kind of recommended it to me, and I started to read them, and I just was devouring them. And I loved them. I couldn't get enough of them. Each time one came out, I would go to Barnes & Noble and pick it up. So absolutely loved them, and I'm really excited to get started rereading them. Now, everyone's really familiar with the very first one, which is The Bad Beginning. This is the one that you see on the movie. This is the one that you are probably easiest to identify because it has the children, you know what their story is, and you know that the villain is Count Olaf. So this is the very first one that I'm going to reread. I've actually reread the first three quite a few times, and I don't know why. It's like I want to start them and I get through the first three and then I kind of stop. So it'll actually be really interesting coming to probably book 4 into the end, because it'll be kind of new to me because it's been quite a while since I have reread those. So this is the start of that series, and I'm going to do it vlog style, of course, one of my favorite ways to film. So this is just purely your introduction to what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of months, because I'm going to do this each month until the end of the year. This month is March, I'm going to actually be reading 2 of them because there are 13 books in the series. So I want to make sure that I'm staying on top of that as the books do get bigger as they go. So this month I'm going to be rereading both The Bad Beginning, which is the first, and then The Reptile Room, which is the second. These 2 are really 2 of my favorites of the series, but who knows, maybe as I reread them, I'll find out that I actually like some of the other ones better. So I hope you stick around. I hope you've hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you'll know when my vlogs come out on the series. I'm really excited about this, and I'm really happy to share my findings with you, as I do have some companion pieces that go along with this. One is the unauthorized autobiography of Lemony Snicket, and then also the Beatrice letters, which was really fascinating when I first had purchased it. So I'm excited to kind of dive back into that and show you what that's all about. So stay tuned. So I am going to be starting the first in a series of unfortunate events. Like I said before, I have read this a couple of times, so this will be, I don't know if it's like my 4th or 5th time reading this, but I'm going to go ahead and start that. Thanks, Dwight. Start that right now. I have my 2 princes with me. Dwight, who clearly wants to be in my lap, and Kingston's behind him there. So you know how that goes. I'm always being distracted. I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. I just made myself some tea, and that is nice and hot in my favorite mug. Can't go wrong with a good cup of tea. So I'll let you know what I think about the first one. I think, this is pretty small as far as how big the book is, so I think I'll probably be able to get through quite a lot of it in one sitting. So yeah, I'll let you know what I think. So quick note while I'm starting to read this. I'm suddenly interested in wondering why parents are allowing their 3 children who are all, well, I mean, Violet's 14, but why are they letting them go to the beach by themselves and with an infant? That seems weird. Okay, so I have read the first 3 chapters of The Bad Beginning, and stopped to have dinner. We ate, or ordered from a local pub that we usually frequent, but being as everyone is closed, we ordered pickup from them so that they can still run their business while the doors have to be shut. So if you can do that for your own local businesses, I do hope that you are. A lot of local businesses need our support right now. So anywho, like I said, I've read the first 3 chapters, so we have found out that the Baudelaire mansion has burned to the ground, and which starts the story, no surprises there, and has left the 3 Baudelaire children, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny, orphans, and their journey has brought them to Count Olaf, who is an actor with a troupe of actors. We haven't yet met them, but we know that right now the children are going to be making a dinner for them. And we've met Justice Strauss, who lives next door, and they really like her. And so yeah, I'm gonna keep reading. Okay, so I have finished the first book, which is The Bad Beginning. It didn't take me very long. I would say probably about altogether, because I paused for dinner, like 2 hours maybe. It's only about 160 pages, so it's not too bad. And I liked it, of course. It's interesting rereading it because you start to see things that you might not have seen before. Obviously, it's very weird that these children are kind of on their own, meaning like they're taking care of themselves, and then they're put in this really unfortunate situation where they're orphans, and their guardian, their new guardian, Count Olaf, is a terrible person. And I think it's weird that they live next door to a judge, and the judge doesn't see any signs that might be deemed unsavory for these children. Also, the way this is written is really unique because the narrator, or Lemony Snicket, it's like he is telling their story in real time, but he's also interjecting with his own kind of thoughts, and the time seems askew, as if he has collected all of this information and is now giving it to the reader. So it's very interesting. I do enjoy that. It's kind of a different way of writing. He addresses the readers at some points as well, like talking about his own that's my dog. Talking about his own situations as well. And what I found interesting is I don't believe that this is a world that we know. And what I mean like that is it's not like it's taking place in Boston or London or anywhere that we are known to our own world. I think he has created his own world for the series of unfortunate events. I think a lot of the same laws apply as far as, gravity and children and guardianship and that kind of thing. But time is different here as far as, he mentions there's horse and carriages as well as motorcycles and automobiles. There's also a 30-foot tower on Count Olaf's home. So it's very interesting. You can't quite place what time era they are in, nor what kind of city they're in, because there's like many fountains, and it's just very interesting. So I feel like he's created his own world. So I did really like the first one. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the second one right away, which is the Reptile Room. If you own your own book, you can tell at the very end of the book, it actually gets you started in to kind of understanding what could possibly happen in the next one, and it's in reference of this like little letter. So that's what I mean by he is like putting this information together and kind of like passing it along to the reader. So it's like he's researched the unfortunate events of these Baudelaire children, and in the very back there's like this little letter that kind of gets you set up for the second book, which I think is really unique. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that and see how far I get. So it's kind of getting a little bit later. It's about 8 o'clock. I finished the first book earlier like you saw, and I apologize if that last check-in was a little bit fuzzy. I don't know, I feel like my camera was trying to find my face. I don't know if the lighting wasn't good or whatever, but I went and put some comfy pants on. I changed my glasses just because my other glasses were kind of hurting the back of my head, a little tighter back there. So I changed them up, and then I went and got some water and a little snack to eat while I start the next book in Series of Unfortunate Events, which is the Reptile Room. And you can see big old snake that kind of looks almost like a dragon here, and I just love the illustrations in the books here, and they pretty much have illustrations throughout. So usually on the start of each chapter they will have some kind of illustration that goes along with that particular section, and I really love that. I really love how, even though it's very few, that there is still a little bit of that, you know, really intricate drawings and whatnot that go along with the story. I think I was saying before how this is kind of its own world, and I think as you get farther in and you start to read more about their adventures, you start to realize more and more that it is quite a different world. It's not our world. It's not, you know, as simple as just walking out our front step and saying, yep, this is, you know, this is where the Baudelaire children would be. It's a completely different world. So I'm excited to start on this one. This one again is pretty short. It looks like it's 190 pages, so I'll probably be able to get this done. I'm not sure today, but probably tomorrow. And then, yeah, I'll be able to tell you a little bit more. I have gotten to chapter 8 in the Reptile Room, and I remember this is one of the books that I felt the saddest in, because one of the main characters, Dr. Montgomery, or Uncle Monty, is probably one of my favorite characters in the Series of Unfortunate Events, and you learn very early on that he will die in this book. And I felt it was very interesting the way in which the author kind of divulges that, because he tells you quite a few times before the actual death that Uncle Monty is not going to make it. And I don't know if that's because he's being conscious of the fact that it is a children's book, so he's trying to ease into the fact that this character is going to die so that you don't, I guess, cling on to him as much. But like, for me, Uncle Monty is one of my favorite characters. Like, I think if I can recall all of the 13 books, like, I feel like that this was like the best home for the children, so it kind of stinks. But like I said, I'm up to chapter 8. Monty has just perished. seemingly from a snake bite because it's the Reptile Room. And Stefano, who we learn right away is definitely not who he says he is trying to take the children away. So I really do love this series. I've been noticing little things here and there that I didn't notice previously. And like I said, I've read the first 3 a couple of times, but I think the older I get and the more read I get, I'm starting to realize a few things that are different, or maybe that I didn't realize before. One thing I really like about this, which I think I said before, is that it's written in such a way that it's as if the narrator has collected all of this information, is now giving it to us, as opposed to it happening in real time. Although the story feels like it's in real time, but then there's some interjections of the author saying, you know, had they had known this, maybe they would have done this instead, or, you know, they would regret this later. So it's almost as if this has all already happened and he's simply giving us the information. Another thing that I really like is they'll say certain words and then they'll say which means yada yada yada, like the definition, which I think is nice for kids, because sometimes in books when you're using bigger words, you may not necessarily understand what it is. And for kids, I mean, it's not like they're going to go to a dictionary and try to figure out what that word means. So I think it's really nice that the author is giving larger words in the book, but then immediately describing what they actually mean so that kids can kind of grow their vocabulary. So I liked that a lot. I also think that a lot of what is in this is very adult driven, and very dark. Like, this book gets to be really dark. Like, there's clearly murder in this book, and you don't see that in a lot of middle grade, and at least not a lot of the middle grade that I read. Like, yes, deaths happen, but not like straight murder, and it gets darker from here. So the fact that this Count Olaf, it will go to the extent of killing people, is super scary. So I have about 90 pages left. I'm probably going to be able to get those done tomorrow and let you know what I think about the second book. Good morning. It is the next day, and I did not sleep very well at all. So I thought I would get up a little early and read some more of the Reptile Room. You can hear that. That's my dishwasher. I decided to be motivated and get some stuff done. I made myself some coffee, and I'm excited to drink it. So before I have to get ready for work, I'm gonna go ahead and get some more of the Reptile Room done. Had to pause there, and now I have to get ready for work, but I have about 20 pages left in the Reptile Room. It's funny, this book, they really kind of emphasize the fact that these kids are pretty smart. They're pretty intuitive and imaginative and inventive, and it's up to them to save themselves. I find that really intriguing, and you don't see that in a lot of adult books. Usually the adult is the one that comes to the rescue, but in this book the adults are usually not very good at helping, so the children have to do it on their own. And I'm just about to the end, where everything will be exposed and be off into the next one. So I am going to get ready for work. Like I said, I have about 20 pages left, and then I'll be done, and I'll be able to get you some more information about what I thought. Okay, so I have officially finished both books, and I have rated them a 4 for The Bad Beginning and a 5 for The Reptile Room. I love this series, I have to tell you. It's one of my favorites, and I just love how it's so uniquely written. So it's in third person omniscient, which means the narrator knows everything that's happening. And that makes sense because it's also written in first person. And what I mean by that is Lemony Snicket is the author who has basically collected all of this information about the Baudelaire orphans and has provided it to us in such a way that there will often be interjections, like I've said before, of Lemony Snicket saying, you know, I found this information, or when the Baudelaires were last here, or that kind of thing. But then he's also telling the story as it's happening. So it's very uniquely written. I think that's really cool. I like when books have a different kind of way of presenting a story that is, you know, different from what you typically see. I also really like how you feel like as a reader you're part of the mystery. So I really love how the story starts out. I mean, other than the fact that it's terrible and unfortunate, and I mean, there's nothing that these orphans can do about what's happened. But I really enjoy these books so much. I gave The Bad Beginning a 4 simply because it was the beginning. It was a little bit slow for me, and there wasn't a lot happening, and it was kind of just a swift kind of introduction. Now I gave The Reptile Room a 5 because, first of all, this is one of my favorite Guardians. I love Uncle Monty. I was so sad when you find out that he is going to die, and I'm sorry that's a spoiler, but they kind of tell you right away in the beginning. But it's the first kind of portion where you're like, whoa, Count Olaf is legit. He is going to try to get this inheritance no matter what. So this is, I feel like The Reptile Room is really where you understand that this is going to be a fearsome struggle. So love these 2 books. This is the start of a series on my channel here, so I hope you stick around. Next month I'll be reading The Wide Window. And something that's really cool in the books is that every book at the very end there is a letter that is kind of to the editor, I believe. It's at the very end, and it's a letter to the editor, and it basically starts you for the next book. So this letter to the editor actually talks about The Wide Window, and so it kind of gets you revved up for the next one, which is awesome. So I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing so far. If you haven't already read these books, I'm sorry if there's any spoilers that you're kind of concerned about, but for those of you who have read them, maybe you'd like to reread them, as they are fantastic, and each time I read them I find something different of value here. So stick around, more next month for The Wide Window, and yeah, so make sure you have those notification bells on so you can see when my videos come through. I hope you're a subscriber and that you've liked this video. Comment below. I love to interact. What did you think about these books? Are you rereading them? Have you ever read them? Did you like them the first time around? And I love to communicate. So until next time, guys, you know how it goes. Happy reading. Bye!